That's a good role.
Lori, what about you?
Laura, you have to unmute yourself.
No, I just it sounded like an interesting book. I haven't honestly have not read it yet. But Emily's been talking about it, and I just wanted to kind of see what she was doing with the book club and was just interested in it. So
And Miss Bruce?
that was Miss Bruce.
That no, mom's on here, Lori.
Oh, is she on there now?
Mhm. You know what? It's okay. You don't have to ask her. I'm going to get started because I do want to talk about the book, and I know why Ellen's here because she's into the schooling, and there's another woman on named Kathy Kraut who lives in New York, and she's really interested. But just a quick overview of what Donna does because I wanted to introduce you to her. She's the CEO of Gardenuity. It's a Dallas-based company that focuses on health and wellness, and they match gardens to anyone who lives anywhere in the US. Do you send them overseas as well, Donna?
I do not.
Yeah. But anyway, everything is pretty much organic. She focuses on herbs and microgreens. We've done a lot of speaking engagements together. She's had a really interesting career, 20 years of retail experience. She's been recognized all over the country. She just got back from the Women in Tech conference, right? Which was in Napa. And she is very much into gardening as a health tool, which I think is really cool. She grew up in Singapore, London, Alaska, California, and finally settled in Dallas. That's crazy, right? She's been all over the place. She graduated from SMU. She returned as a guest speaker for the entrepreneurial business program. And now she lives in Dallas with her husband and two daughters, who is a Special Olympic gold medal winner.
Yes.
And she's adorable. So I'm thrilled to have Donna here with me. And I just wanted to say real quickly, you guys know who I am. I just finished my diabetes prevention program certification. And I have my national boards now. So I coach individuals and groups. And I'm thrilled to be here. And I wish we had more people, but I think it'll be more fun with just a few.
This is
So,
awesome.
so here we go. So I'm going to do a short synopsis of the book, how I see it. And then we're going to open it up for questions because I really want this to be sort of interactive. But I will say this, Casey Means started a company called Levels Health. I've always been really fascinated with her because she started off as an ENT and she got into functional medicine. She backed into it because she just noticed her patients were all over the map, and she needed to. She realized that metabolic health was really important, so she started this company, Levels Health. And if you don't know about Levels Health, it's a continuous glucose monitor that monitors your sugar levels, and it's attached to your phone. It's getting a lot of play in California, in the tech world. It's not public yet, but it's a lot of people are using their products, and I think it's really great. But anyway, she wrote this book with her daughter, and it really talks about her taking the journey from a traditional doctor's route to really focusing on functional medicine just by sheer working with patients and realizing what they were experiencing and seeing the difference when they changed their lifestyle. Part one is really about setting that up, about the foundational concepts of metabolic health. And that's where you see stuff where she talks about the overall healthcare system in general, and how you really can't trust your doctor, and how you really need to learn to be the CEO of your own health. And so in my own practice, that's what I try to do, is try to educate my clients on the best way to be healthy for themselves, because everyone is different. So she reflects on all her medical training in that first part, and then she addresses the underlying causes. and gets into mitochondrial connection and defines good and bad energy. And I do want to say just a bit about mitochondria. If you don't know what it is, I'm going to try to explain it to you very simply. Mitochondria is in every organ, every cell in your body. And it's an organelle within the cell. And what it does is once you get nutrients in that cell, it transports those nutrients and makes it into what's called ATP, and that's your energy. So her definition of good energy is when you are doing all the right things from a lifestyle perspective, you are having good energy. That's when you feel alive. That's when you feel great. I mean, I just got off the phone with a client who's sick, and the poor thing has bad energy. So he's feeling horrible. But, and so we were talking a lot about that, about his mitochondrial health and how you deal with that. So that consequently is why she named it the book Good Energy. So the other thing she talks about is the role of metabolic health in aging and disease, and just taking, obesity rates have tripled since 1970 according to the CDC, and 41.9% of adults are obese. Approximately 98 million Americans are pre-diabetic, and 80% are not aware of it. So, in her estimation, this insulin resistance that we're hearing a lot about and metabolic health is really, really important. The second part of the book delves into the lifestyle factors that impact metabolic health. So, one thing that she talks a little bit about is metabolic syndrome. And that's something that I think is really important to understand. And there's 5 factors that go with metabolic syndrome. So if you're really metabolically unhealthy, 3 of these 5 you're going to have. And that's fasting glucose of over 100. Your waistline as a woman would be over 35 inches. Your HDL is less than 50, 40 for men. HDL is the good cholesterol. Triglycerides of 150 or higher. Later on in the book, she gets into blood tests, which I think is a fascinating part of the book. And when she's talking about the blood test, she's talking about optimal versus standard. So that gets into her whole perspective about don't trust your doctor, because her perspective, as well as many other doctors, especially functional medicine doctors, is for those levels to be lower. So for triglycerides, for instance, most doctors say 150 or higher is a problem. Well, she says her benchmark is 84. So most doctors, when you hit 150, they're going to put you on a statin. So you really want those triglycerides to be lower. By the way, I'm not a doctor. This is all written in the book. Blood pressure 130 or higher is another thing with metabolic syndrome. And then she talks about the standardizations on a blood test. And that would be triglycerides, HDL cholesterol, fasting glucose, blood pressure.
Emily, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop you there.
Yeah.
One of the things that jumped out at me that she asked, and I kind of want to see a show of hands, is she said, we all know what our mortgage payment is. We all know normally what our weight is, what our car payments are. Very few of us know what our blood markers are, and we should. And
Right.
that's something that we should do quarterly. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
And so,
Well, she says quarterly. I mean, we're all doing it yearly and with our yearly checkups. So, I mean, I think quarterly is a lot to ask. I don't know if I would do that, but I understand what she's saying because, she's a functional medicine doctor. So she
and
wants.
she also talked about silos, which I found fascinating. So she
Mhm.
talked about the idea that, we should know what our blood markers are.
Right.
And we go to all these different specialists, and the specialists, each one might know what our blood markers are, but they're not communicating what is best for me. And they're relying on me to be the communicator between the different doctors. Is that what you have found?
Yeah, and I think that's where that's her whole premise of this book is that doctors are just treating the disease and they're not treating the root cause. So you're seeing a push in this country towards functional medicine and holistic medicine. And there are practices such as there's a practice here that I'm actually working with that has 70 people on staff. That's a holistic practice that's been here for about 30 years. But they're starting to pop up all over the country. There's one a functional medicine doctor that just left, Peter Attia. His name is Ralph Esposito. He's based in New York. So they're kind of going all over the place, and people are finding that working with a holistic doctor, they're getting a better, bigger picture about their health. There certainly is always going to be the room for somebody to treat a disease. I mean, we're always going to need that. But, you know, infectious diseases start because there's something in your system. There's a root cause that hadn't been addressed for a long period of time, and it's not detected. So I think that is really what she's trying to say in this book, is that really focusing on a holistic approach and lifestyle changes is the way to go. So when she's talking about those biomarkers, there's standard on the blood test, and then there's the other ones that she mentioned that I've never even done before. But when you go to a holistic doctor, you can give him that list. I actually made that list for you guys. I just took it from the book and copied it, and I'm going to send it to you in chat. So you'll have that. You can download it. I'll do that in a second. But these are all standard that you know about. And what she says on a blood test, for instance, standard is under 150, but her optimal is under 80. HDL cholesterol for women is 50 or over. But she says lowest risk is between 50 and 90. Okay. Fasting glucose is a negative 100, optimal 70 to 85. Waist circumference 35 for women. She suggests that at least the International Diabetes Federation proposes higher cuts of 31.5 inches for women. So it gets into a little bit more stuff. And the triglyceride to HDL ratio, the standard wasn't specified, and I have never heard of that before, but it's really good to know that. So you can measure that as well. And basically, it's just taking your triglyceride levels that you get on your standard blood test every year from your physical and dividing it by your HDL, and that gives you a number. And if it's less than 1.5, that's good. If it's 3 or above, that strongly suggests that you're insulin resistant. So I think those biomarkers are really important. I love that about the book. I also, any other questions about that? Because I don't want to, just breeze over that unless you guys might have some questions.
For me, the book's a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
not only did I listen to it, but I read it. And now I feel like I need to go back and annotate it.
Yeah.
What I did like about it was the reality of, she explains, how much blood tests should be and how simple it is to know what your numbers are. When she gets into, and you'll go into this later, good energy versus bad energy. I mean, that's a lot of science that she did a deep dive into, that you kind of have to step back if you've not had training like you have and really try to absorb it. But one of the things I found fascinating was, if you look at heart disease, liver disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's, all the major lifestyle diseases, they all have one common denominator, and that is that their cells are affected. So they have sick cells. Which I find interesting.
Mm-hmm. Right. And there are, it's called zombie cells, these incessant cells that she talks about. And I call them zombie cells. And I don't know why science makes up these terms that are so difficult to say, but I love the word zombie cell. I read about somebody coined it zombie cell originally, and I thought that was great. But anyway, what these cells do are, these are cells that are dead in your body, and instead, and once they decide to die like that, they're going to sit there, and it something's not done about them, they're going to explode in your body and they're going to become inflammatory. So there's couple of lifestyle changes that you can make to make sure that these cells, um, are eaten up. It's called autophagy, where it's like a Pac-Man that comes and eats up that dead cell. And what that is that's intermittent fasting, and that's eating well and taking care of your gut. So everything is connected. And, there's a lot of there's a bunch of zombie cells all over your body. Everybody has them, but you just need to eat well to get rid of them.
So
And
from a fasting standpoint, how long do you have to fast?
well, it depends on the person.
Okay.
Fasting could mean 12 hours, it can mean 10 hours. But the time that you're not eating is when you're rebuilding your cellular structure. So, that's why it's really important to eat at night when you're eating something really good, like a piece of protein and vegetable, and you're not putting stuff in your body that's terrible for you, like refined sugar. That's a good way to go to sleep, because you've fed your cells something that's really good for your body, and then you're going to sleep and you're giving your body a rest and you're giving your cells a rest. It makes sense if you think about it. You're giving your cells a rest, and then all of a sudden you're adding those nutrients back into your cells that are going to release that good energy. So that's what it's about. And it just depends on the person. Fasting has been used for centuries all over the world, but fasting can mean different things to different people. I was just at a lunch with someone who has a world-renowned father who lived until he was 95. He was a major heart surgeon, and she told me he fasted every Monday, ate nothing. And he lived till he was 95, and he mainly ate most of his calories in the morning, had a very light lunch and a very light dinner. And he lived till he was 95. He was a very healthy man, but he was standing all day, and that's what he was doing. But I think fasting can mean different things to different people. For me, fasting is 14 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And it depends on your activity levels too. So,
Right.
But Emily, it's Kathy. I can't go past 14.
Okay,
I
fine.
I've tried. I normally do 12 to 13, 14, but people say you should do 16. I cannot do 16 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's you.
And do you do it once a week? Do you do it? How often do you do it, Kathy?
Oh, I try to stop eating by 7:38.
Okay.
And if I have something, it'll be a smoothie at 10 o'clock in the morning or 10:30.
Okay.
But
So-
I do not drink coffee, which is an interesting thing. I like a diet Snapple, which is probably with the aspartame, is probably not the best thing to have. But I have one in the morning and that's it.
Okay.
But I probably break the fast by having that. But I don't, people go, oh, try 15 hours. I'm like, I went to Greece and I stayed with a friend. And he does like 15, 16 hours and he stops eating at 5 o'clock. And I'm like, I have a headache. I can't do it.
Right.
So yeah, it does. It depends on the person.
I think
Right.
it's very much a bio individual thing. A lot of
Right.
people have lost weight through fasting, through giving up a meal.
Really?
But there are so many things that you can do other than just fasting, and
I think
exercise.
so.
It all works together. It's a wheel. So let's talk about the 6 principles of good eating. And they are avoiding processed sugars and refined carbs. This is something I'm especially passionate about, as Donna knows. Prioritizing nutrient-dense whole foods like microgreens. To me, broccoli microgreens are the key to life. They are so nutrient dense, and Donna, her company actually makes microgreens. I mean, they sell a kit that you can make, and I actually make them at home. And what is so beautiful about this is that the problem is all the produce that you see is grown in the grocery stores is grown in soil that is so horrible for you. And this is something that is really well done. The soil is good. It's so nutrient dense. It's one of the best things you can put on your salads. Donna puts it all over the place on
We
everything.
call it sprinkles at my house. We put them on everything. But that I want to back up because I'm coming at this with questions from just a consumer. So
Yeah.
define for me processed foods versus unprocessed foods and the NOVA classification system. Because I think obviously vegetables, right, on the outside of the store are unprocessed.
Right.
But all of a sudden you go in and you take a grain of wheat that is, they say it's, organic, blah, blah, blah. I'm not sure I totally understand. I know a Pop-Tart is processed, but where is that middle ground?
Well, okay, so couple of things. You want to avoid anything with hydrogenated oils or corn syrup or any sort of OSE that's thrown into something, fructose, um, anything that has sort of a citrate something on there, and it sounds kind of, there's so much terminology that they put on labels, but basically packaged goods is most of them are ultra processed. There's one company I really like, Siete Foods, because she's celiac and it's pretty good for their chips and things like that. But you have to understand all these things have stuff in them. And really the best way to eat is really whole foods, is stuff that you make on your own, buying organic produce. She mentioned a resource called ewg.org. You can go online and look up the top 12 things you should buy from an organic perspective. I believe the top thing are strawberries, the second is spinach, and the third is kale.
Right.
So those things, the reason you have to buy them organic is they're highly sprayed with Roundup, with glyphosate. So they are a human carcinogen. There's been lawsuits where people have won because of it. So if you buy those things and eat that way from a whole food perspective, you have a really clean diet. But she's telling you in the book, she's telling you avoid refined grains and sugars and avoid seed oils. And for instance, I'll tell you what I did recently. I've been eating Simply Pop. I thought I was doing myself a favor. It said organic corn. And then I went on there one day and I realized it had sunflower oil in it. And that is like a seed oil. It's really bad for you. So she's telling you those three things to watch out for. So ultimately, watch out for those three things. And then if you look at anything that's packaged, is probably going to have some type of ultra processing in it. So, so you have to be very, very careful with that stuff.
She kind of breaks it down. If you can get through the big words and all
Yeah.
the science, there is some common sense there,
Yeah.
which I think she's done beautifully. And part of that, I think, is because it's so personal. Yes, she's an MD. Yes, she was the youngest to win the Stanford Award. I mean, she's obviously brilliant.
Yeah.
But she also shares her story about her mom, who got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and died 13 days later because all the silo doctors weren't talking to each other and there were clear markers of what was going on. I think that's something that, for me to recommend this book to somebody, I love the fact that it gets personal.
Yeah, and she tells her patient story. She tells the story about Sarah, her patient that had some type of IBS issue. I mean, she goes into another one named Lucy, and so
Yeah.
I do like that. I like the personal stories too. I think that really should, she she states her point there. She states
Right.
her point why metabolic health is so important, and I tend to agree with her. That's why I picked this book in the first place, because I think that metabolic health is the number one thing. If you can take care of that, then you can take care of everything else. And she does say that in this book.
Yeah. She talks
So,
about the healthcare system being broken.
yeah.
And it's fun for me to think about. I think Forbes is the one who said gardening is a non-pharmaceutical approach to wellness.
Hmm.
I mean, I think it just comes back to sometimes the simplest things. All my friends in Europe, they're light years ahead with what they eat and what's available
Yeah.
and what they call clean eating. I think that's coming around, and this book does a really lovely job kind of bringing it to the forefront of conversation.
Yeah, I agree. And, thank goodness our government just got rid of red dye threes,
Yeah.
I mean, we're excited about that. No more peppermints, ladies. But anyway, so really, okay, so let's get back to the 6 principles of good eating and ask me any questions about this once we get through this. But she says avoid processed sugars and refined carbs, which we've talked about. Prioritizing nutrient dense whole foods, which we've talked about. Balancing your macronutrients for stable blood sugar. So, what are macronutrients, ladies? Anybody know? No? Macronutrients are your proteins, fats, and carbs. And macronutrients are really, really what you're looking for on a plate. So, you want to look for protein, vegetables, and grains, but limit the grains and carbs. There are carbs in vegetables, and quite frankly, I think quinoa is good, but I think looking for carbs through your vegetables will serve you well. So, a lot of people don't realize that the bad carbs can go away, and you can get your carbohydrates through vegetables. So when I'm coaching my clients, that's what I tell them. And you can certainly cheat, occasionally. And if you're going to eat those carbs, if you're going to eat the pasta, eat it during the day because you'll be able to burn it off before the evening.
So if you eat something bad, when is it that the zombie Pac-Man things come eat the bad stuff?
that that's when you're you're funny.
See,
That's that's when you're eating like your phytonutrients and like your kale and things like that.
okay.
It's all through, your gut, and they're coming in and they're eating that those cells up
Okay.
and making them new cells, and they're better. Um, okay, incorporating healthy fats. This is another subject that I think is really fascinating because I think for years we were eating no fat diets. And I mean, I'll often say I think that there's been so many neurological diseases that have come into play. Parkinson's is the fastest growing neurological disease in this country. Why all of a sudden? I mean, we spent 10 years not eating fat. It's kind of not a great thing. So where do you get the best fat from? Well, you can eat a whole avocado and have excellent fat through that. You can get it through nuts and seeds. You can get fat through, fatty fish. And your omega-3s are really important. So you're getting those through nuts and seeds and fatty fish. And also be careful of farmed fish versus wild fish. The farm fish has a lot of sixes in it, and they're toxic for your body. So take a look at that stuff too. And then, she does touch on something that I think is a really important issue, which I like to talk about as well, and that's eating high fiber foods to support gut health. So the average American eats 10 to 15 grams of fiber a day. The USDA recommends 25 grams for women and 38 for men. Our ancestors were eating 100 to 150 grams of fiber a day. So that is the difference. And I think one of the things that any human being should focus on is fiber, because if you're eating some kale or some spinach before you eat anything else on your plate, there's so much fiber in those greens that it's going to slow down your digestion. And it's counterintuitive to what you think. You do want your digestion to slow because it's going to help you use that energy in the proper way. Okay. So if you don't have that fiber in your body and you're eating pasta, say for instance, it has no fiber in it, maybe it does, but a little bit, or a piece of bread or something with no fiber or ice cream or whatever, you're not going to slow down your system and it's going to go straight to sugar. So it doesn't help regulate your blood sugar levels. So that is one of her big concerns there about eating high fiber foods, which I love. And then the sixth thing she talks about, which I think is really interesting, it's about hydration. And this is something that a lot of people don't realize is that if you don't hydrate properly, it can really cause you to have metabolic syndrome. You have to hydrate your body in order to be healthy. So drinking water is one of the most important things you can do. And she gets into this a lot. She even gets into the types of water you want. She said Britas weren't even getting rid of all the heavy metals that we should get rid of, which kind of scares me because I only use a Brita. I don't know about everybody else, but these reverse osmosis filters are amazing if you can get one. But that I think that was interesting, and she highlights the science behind all these principles, and I think that was great in the book. A couple of things I want to just relate to in the book because some people don't know this is what oxidative stress is, because you hear this term all the time, and that's when the body doesn't have enough antioxidants to combat free radicals in your body, so it turns into inflammation. And free radicals is toxins, stuff in your body that gets in all the time. It can get in through your skin or anything. So antioxidants, where you get antioxidants from? Well, you get them from Donna's microgreens or herbs, or you get them from some citrus or an apple or whatever. I don't talk about supplements. I don't do that as a health coach. I think you can get a lot of these things through your food anyway. So if you look at food as medicine, that is a better way to look at food. And then the second term I'd like to just mention is insulin resistance, because you hear a lot about this, and she talks about it a lot in the book. These are cells that don't respond in your muscle and fat and your muscles, your fat, and your liver, and it doesn't become insulin. Insulin's a hormone. So as long as the pancreas makes enough of this insulin, you're okay. You're within a healthy range. But once it stops making that insulin, you're insulin resistant. So it leads to hypoglycemia, which is a precursor for pre-diabetes and diabetes. So it's kind of a strain. It's sort of like the cells don't respond in your muscles and your fat and your liver to insulin. But as long as the pancreas keeps making it, you're okay. But then when it stops, you're getting hypoglycemic, and then you've got a precursor to prediabetes and diabetes. So that's just something to know. And then, okay, what chapter am I on? Sorry, I'm a little behind on my things. Here we go. Then she talks about creating a good energy meal. What does people think that means? What does creating a good energy meal mean to you? Any thoughts?
Balancing your blood sugar,
Right.
not creating a big spike.
Right. And how would
we need to be in awe of our food? I mean, it is there to give us energy, and I think to slow down and actually taste it, spend more time with good food, which sounds silly, but I think when you do that, I think you're in a better position. I call it mindful eating, but I think that's something she dives into beautifully.
Yeah, I think so too.
I would say, this is Anne, I would say whole foods and primarily protein at every meal, protein and vegetables.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anybody else? Any specific foods you love for a reason? No? One of the things that I was going to mention,
Yeah.
Really great is mushrooms. And mushrooms uncouple your mitochondria, and they are really exceptional. They're medicinal, and they're really, really good for you. So that's another thing. And that, along with microgreens, are two of my favorites. So, that's something. I also think that meal prep is really important when it comes to creating a good meal. And she definitely touches on that. So if you have a staple of things that you love, and you focus on that maybe on Sunday nights or Monday nights when you're not doing anything. And I love kale, and so I like to get a head of kale and chop it up for the week. And kale can be very thick for people. If you take some lemon and just squeeze it on there about a minute before you put on your dressing or whatever you want, or olive oil or whatever you want to put on there, it loosens it up a bit. But anyway, meal prep, I think, is really important. You can do a lot of different things. You can get some protein in there. I love wild salmon in the can, and you can buy it from Costco, and it's better than eating tuna fish. And you put a little bit of the avocado mayo in there with some fresh parsley that you might get from Donna, and
From your own garden.
or from your own garden, wherever it may be, and put some red onion in there, and you can make, a bunch of it for 3 or 4 days to stay. So, there's a lot of different things you can do to prep. And I think meal prep is really important when you're looking at changing your lifestyle.
So Emily, that's fascinating, actually. I'm going to stop you there because she's an MD, right? I mean, she is an accomplished doctor. And one of the things she talked about is that it's not a big curriculum, nutrition. I mean, when you go through medical school, you're not taking a lot of classes on nutrition. So how could we expect our doctors to be able to kind of teach that? This book kind of opens up that conversation really nicely.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think she said in the book, 80% of the doctors that go through medical school only get about an hour or 2 hours worth of nutrition training, which is crazy. So most likely when you're going to your doctor, and even some holistic doctors, that's why they put health coaches in place and dietitians on staff, is they don't really have that training. So, so that's a good resource for a lot of people. I agree with you on that one. Um, in chapter 7, she gets into respecting your biological clock, your light, sleep, and meal timing. And I really love this chapter. She mentions Matthew Walker, and I took an 18-hour course with Matthew Walker. He's the top sleep doctor in the country. He's based at Berkeley in California, and he is really unbelievable talking about sleep. But the number one thing he says, which she says in this, is the importance of morning sunlight. So if we can do anything for ourselves, that would be getting out in the sunlight early in the morning with your cup of coffee, walking around the block. And that really helps set your circadian rhythm for the day and will help you sleep better at night. So obviously there's a lot of other strategies in there about, getting rid of your electronics in your bedroom, and, trying not to watch television at night, which is my number one problem. I can't get off of Netflix. I tried. That was my New Year's resolution. I blew it. But yeah. But I think, that thing about morning sunlight is really important. And there's some other things about timing of meals, making sure that you quit eating maybe 2 or 3 hours before you go to bed, really important. Avoid late night eating, blue light exposure, really important not to do. And if you do that, you have to have blue light glasses. Otherwise it's going to keep you up at night. So I love the sleep part. I think, if you talk to anybody today who's over the age of 40, the conversation is always about sleep. I just got off a call with a client earlier. She's 48 years old. She said that's all her friends talk about is sleep. So, it's a problem because you either have to get up and go to the bathroom, or you're woken up by children. There's other things. The older you get, you have disrupted sleep. So I feel like I'm so successful when I've gotten 7 hours of complete sleep, and how great you feel. You know how great you feel. It's unreal. So I'm always thinking to myself, and you guys think about doing this, is journaling what you're eating and what you're doing and how you're exercising in one day. And then write it down. And that night, if you slept 7 straight hours, think about what you did that day and try to replicate that every day, because if you can do that, you might have a really successful sleep pattern after that. I think it's really interesting. I love that whole thing about sleep. Any questions about sleep? No. Okay. She talks about modernity and movement and temperature and non-toxic living. Well, we know that movement's really important and getting rid of toxins in your environment. So, I I can get into physical activity a little bit and how important that is, but there's the CDC recommends 150 minutes of brisk to high intensity training a week, and 2 to 3 strength training classes. But if you're looking to change your metabolism, you're going to have to bump it up more, and it's going to have to be high intensity training. And 150 minutes a week is about, that's about 2 walks for me a week. So I think that's great for a standard person, but I think if you really want to have, the numbers suggest that if you want to be really healthy, it's good to get 10,000 steps a day. So and she says that in the,
that's bad.
yeah. So there you go. And you know what? If it's raining outside, get your steps by walking around your house, or walk. You can get your steps any which way you want to do it. Park far away from the store, like walk up and down the staircase as much as you can. When you're talking on the telephone, get on the telephone, walk around, I mean, we sit so much, that Americans today, it's crazy. So, and we don't have a lot of walking cities. There's only New York and maybe Charleston. I don't know. I try to walk as much as I can. I'm in Houston right now, and it's not a walking town. So you live in a car. So that's another issue. And then she talks about the role of temperatures such as cold exposure and heat therapy and metabolic health. And there's been a lot of news about this lately, and a lot of people focused on it. But I will say it's really good for your mitochondrial health. And it's showing surprising results for weight loss, things like that, for brown tissue, for brown fat, which is the good fat that you want. So cold.
So are you talking like the cold plunge?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
And you don't even have to do a cold plunge. You can just do a 10-minute cold shower, and start that way, or start really slow, because, it's shocking at first. It's very difficult to start that if you're not used to it. But if you can start very slowly, you just build up over time. I don't do it as much as I should probably, but I think it's a really good tool to have in your tool chest, and it makes you feel alive. If you're really feeling sluggish during the day and you're going out at night and you have to take a shower, take a cold shower, because it'll wake you up. It's great. The hot sauna really helps you sleep. So 20 minutes, 4 times a week is really optimal for good sleep. So that's another thing. And then, at the end of any other questions about that? No? Okay.
Yes, I have one. I have to say something.
Yeah.
Like, you would be busy to, like all your waking days if you tried to abide by all this stuff.
Yeah.
So what do you do? So how do you, like, if you can't take, 4 saunas a week and walk 10,000 steps a day and I don't know, and go forage in your garden for your parsley, what do you do? I mean, like, what does, like, somebody who is trying to lead, the healthiest life that they can lead, but, still has a job, and, has family responsibilities, all of that stuff. What do you do? Because you have all that stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So it depends on how your life is structured, but I would say, okay, so a busy executive such as you, Sarah, because I know you, But you find time to exercise. I know you, but I'm just going to tell you in general.
That's because I have a rebounder in my apartment.
Yeah.
I have one of those things that shakes your body at
Yeah.
the edge of my desk. I have a balancing thing and I have a Peloton,
Yeah. Yeah. And some
all
people
within walking distance of my desk.
some people don't. Okay, so this is the thing. It's not hard to get early sunlight in the morning. You know,
No.
it's not so hard. That's not hard. It's not so hard to eat a healthy breakfast. Not really.
Yeah.
If you eat breakfast, okay, if you're organized. If you're working, you go to work.
Mhm.
You get up and talk on the phone a lot at work. Walk around the office.
Yeah.
Keep walking around the office. At lunch, go out for a walk. Take a lunch break and walk, and then eat your lunch at your desk. Then when you leave, I'm just talking executive because I'm not sure if anybody here is so structured in their day. But at night, maybe you do a yoga class or something online. You don't have time to go to the gym. And then you have your meal prep for dinner and you prepare a meal. If you go to the gym, hop in the sauna as much as you can. I'm not saying do saunas and
Mhm.
cold showers all the time. You don't have to. I mean, I don't do it all the time either, but I'm just saying in general, if you want to leave a healthy life, move as much as you can, eat well,
Mhm.
eat no processed foods, eat no refined sugar, and don't eat seed oils.
And get sleep.
And exercise and sleep well.
Yeah.
So,
But
and
you
be
know what, Sarah,
mindful and be kind to people and be kind to people.
I don't know you, Sarah, but that's me. I mean,
Mhm.
some of this sounds grandiose, and I'm like juggling, leading a company, have a kid in a
Yeah.
wheelchair. I mean, like, there's a lot of what going on in my life, and
Mhm.
sometimes I'm lucky to grab some nuts in a bag and eat it in the car. And sadly, grab a Diet Coke. I know, Emily, I'm sorry, I'm trying really hard.
I can't
But
believe
that's the real life. And I have been known when my watch is like, yeah, you fatty, get up and walk around. You've been sitting too long. Sometimes I'm so deep in what I'm doing that I take the watch off and think, ha, I win. But it's micro steps for me, little micro changes that I hope will have an impact later on.
Yeah, and maybe even thinking it from the perspective of um you have time and you have time to give yourself a treat instead of going and having a drink. Maybe you meet a friend to go for a sauna, you know? I mean, I think that going for a walk with a friend is the most luxurious thing in the world. It's one
I
of my
agree.
favorite
I
things
totally
to do.
agree.
And I see there's a couple of people on here who I walk with, and I love that, but because connection is so important. And if you're connecting with a friend and you're on a walk, you're really doing double duty. It's one of the best things you can do.
Yeah.
So I think it's just how you organize your day, but just knowing that these things are good for you and maybe treating yourself to that occasionally. Um, Finally, at the end of the thing, she talks about mental and emotional aspects of cultivating good energy. And I think one of the most interesting things about stress and about you know, being not mentally, your mindset's not in a good place, is that causes you to be metabolically unhealthy. And one of the things they mention in the book is about when you have too much cortisol in your body and someone builds up a tummy, that fatty tissue that goes around the inner tube. And they've said that they think it's because of the cortisol that builds up in your body, and it's been proven, and it's from stress. So it's really important to take care of your mental health. And that's one of the reasons why Donna started Gardenuity. And we actually are speaking together at a men's breakfast in next month. And we do these all the time because we believe that gardening is one of the best things you can do for health and wellness. And if you can't garden, she's got the gardens that are so easy to do on your own, and they really make you happy. If you see green, it's like the best thing in the world. So
But I'm going to circle back to what Sarah said because I think I'd be friends with you if I knew you. I mean, I love the convenience of all the work stuff, all the workout stuff around you. But bite-sized changes make sense to me. I mean, it's too daunting. Like the idea of gardening, going and tilling up your yard and spending every weekend, not happening for me. I mean, I think we need to like we talk about rethink gardening. It can be in a small container like this. It can be microgreens like this. I like to think about if you're not into exercise, rethink movement. It can be as simple as walking around talking to a friend on the phone. I mean, rethink the ideas. Somebody told me, oh no, to get your level up, you have to think like Jane Fonda, work out like. I'm like, you don't. I mean, rethink it and don't be intimidated, and then you'll work yourself up. I kind of think this book does a pretty good job of it. I'm gonna have to read it 3 or 4 times to understand all the science. But I think it's rethinking and changing my mindset about a lot of it.
Yeah. I thought she covered a lot of good stuff. I'm going to throw some other questions out to everybody because um, you know,
Emily, can I ask you a question? It's Julia.
yeah.
When you say a healthy breakfast,
Mhm.
how do you define? Did you go over it in the beginning? How do you define a healthy breakfast?
Well, I think a healthy breakfast is protein and fiber. And I think that if you look at your breakfast has been the cause for a lot of obesity in this country. I think she talks about Lucky Charms in there, those
Right.
cereals, and how they do these studies and everything, and people don't really, they don't. Maybe we're a more savvy group of people, I imagine, but there's still people that are eating those cereals and they think they're eating fiber and they're not. They're eating straight sugar. So it's getting rid of all of that and coming up with something that works for you. And so what works for me might not work for many people, but I know that, scrambled eggs and avocado, you're getting the good fats in there. You're getting your protein in there. And then if you add some fiber to it, it's really great. I personally love basil seeds. They have a lot of fiber in them and they have a strong amount of protein in them. It's amazing. So they're hard to find. You have to order them on Amazon. Chia seeds are great too, but basil seeds are even better for you. And I think that it really depends on your personal choice on what you want to eat. I eat the same thing every morning. I even travel with my breakfast. I eat organic oats, a third of a cup. I make my own granola with no sugar, and then I add in my probiotic, which is a uh, Forager's cashew milk yogurt and some organic blueberries, and I mix it together. That is and then when I'm traveling, what I do is I just bring my bags with me and make it when I'm there. Or if I'm just going for one night and I'm leaving early in the morning, I'll make organic oats and put the overnight oats and put them in the refrigerator and eat it on the airplane. That's how I do it. But a lot of people love eggs, and it's a great thing to eat when you're in the morning. So just depends, personal preference. So a healthy breakfast, fats, protein, some type of fiber in it would be great. If you can do that, you can put some microgreens on top of those eggs with the avocado. It's delicious. So are oats bad? Oats are not good for you unless they are organic and they're Bob's Red Mill or something like that. But it just depends on who's eating them and how you process them. So they work for me, but they might not work for you, Penny. So, but do not buy Quaker oats. They're straight sugar. So,
That's so sad.
yeah, I know. I know, one of the iconic brands. There is some questions I wanted to throw out to the audience just to, you know, um, what are some challenges you all face growing your own food, if you have any?
Did you say growing our own food?
Growing your own food. You don't have time.
I know, I don't.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So I'm a grower of food in the summer only, for obvious reasons. And it's the Italian heritage. So it's like the tomato, basil, pepper, eggplant routine. Um, and we eat everything from the garden that way. And we do have lettuces too. But the biggest challenges obviously are bugs and bunnies and critters. And then trying to find enough to do with all these things that I harvest, but I usually give some away. But it's great. It's just time consuming and hard to manage with work and everything else. But it's rewarding and gardening and just anything to get outside and be in the soil and is fun. And so I think there's more than just the reap what you sow. It's the whole experience. So.
Yeah. Um, okay, I'm sort of skipping around on some questions here. What what motivated all of you all to read this book in the first place?
You?
No, not me. Okay, I have another question that's more specific. Have you personally experienced any stress relief or mental health benefits from gardening? These are Donna's questions, and then I'll go into some of mine real quick.
Well, I think Terry just answered that beautifully.
Yeah,
Actually,
I think you did.
right.
Okay.
Emily, this is Ann. My husband is an avid gardener,
Yeah.
and I think it's been a huge stress reliever for him. And I feel like I'm his assistant. But Martha Stewart addresses this in that documentary that she
Yeah,
did.
yes.
And I
Yeah.
actually think that's very interesting. But I want to get back to the Quaker Oats thing.
Yeah.
Yes, the sugar Quaker Oats, they're bad, but I'm going to send you the label because I have compared it to Bob's Red Mill, and it is there isn't a lot of there isn't added sugar. They are plain. So I want to just send that to you
Yeah,
so you
send the
can.
label to me.
I am. I'm going to send you the label because yes, all the Quaker Oats with all the sugar in it, yes, but a lot. And you asked, and then the next question you asked was the Casey Means book. Why do we read it? I ordered it because of you. But what she's
Oh, thank
saying,
you, Anne.
you're welcome. But what she's saying is not that different than what so many of the doctors, like Colin Campbell, who wrote the China study, Dr. Esselstyn, all the vegan doctors who have said this for years that you're not trained um, from a medical the doctors aren't trained properly. My mother had an organic garden in Texas in the 70s. Believe me, she was in the minority. We had a compost heap, but you're surrounded by processed food in the 70s. So I feel like I know a lot of this. But
Yeah.
in practice, I have a full-time job. I have a structured life. My kids are now older, but I just think it's very easy. I mean, I would love to do 150 minutes a day. There's no
No,
way
it's
I can do that.
150 a week. It's a week.
Oh, that's fine. Okay, well, good. Then I'm doing that. But I have lost a significant amount of weight over the last 2.5 years. And I see an endocrinologist and I do get my blood tested regularly. And so I'm doing all those things that you mentioned tonight. Some things are genetic, some things like high blood pressure and high cholesterol. I know the skinniest people who have very high cholesterol, whatever. And I actually said to my endocrinologist, 'cause I have lost a lot of weight and we thought a lot of it would go away. I said, really, what's up with this? And she said, well, it's age and it's genetics. A lot of that, and believe me, I've been doing all the things that you've talked about tonight. So I think it's interesting. I think it's complicated, and I think there's, as you said earlier, it's not the same for everyone.
No,
I think everybody is different.
yeah, it's very, very different for everyone. Tell
But
me.
I do agree you have to keep moving, and I'm going to send you the label right now from the
Yeah,
Quaker
I'd
Oats
love to
box.
see that. I'll let you know. Okay, I have another. This is just a great question for everybody because this might help. And you can put it in the chat if you don't want to respond. What's one small health habit you've recently tried to improve? What's one? I mean, I told you mine. I got rid of Simply Pop because it had sunflower oil in it.
Protein at every meal.
What's that?
She said protein at
Protein.
Protein at every meal.
Protein. That's the first
Weightlifting
thing
is
that
another
diet.
one. Somebody
Yeah.
said weightlifting.
Yeah, weightlifting. Yeah, that's good.
Anything else?
sleep.
Sleep.
You know, I have to say, maybe having a child with such severe disabilities, I sleep kind of with one ear listening. But I also have learned really well that I dress rehearse tragedy beautifully. And so I'm not a great sleeper, even though I know I have to be. And the worse I sleep, the more I get stressed about not sleeping. And so it becomes a vicious cycle. So I'm trying, but I haven't mastered it.
Yeah. Yeah. Sleep is tough. It's
Donna, what you just said about the dress rehearsal for tragedy definitely resonated with me. I think the biggest change that I've made over kind of the last year is trying to detox my kitchen, like getting rid of anything that's plastic, that is, made of any kind of petrochemical, any kind of toxin that's going to end up leaching into my food, even, something just to, stir something with, I've gotten rid of everything, my containers for my refrigerator,
Oh,
all
that's
that,
really
all
good.
that,
That's good. That's a
all,
something we
all
can.
that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Wow.
it's
I think Anne said she's seeing an endocrinologist.
Mhm.
I gotta believe that all of that stuff is really toxic to our endocrine system and really
All
messes
the
us up.
PFAs that we've talked about, Sarah.
Yeah.
Even your sprayed couch that has that sunbrella fabric.
Yeah. No, it's
Yeah,
terrible for you.
it's
Anything that's
terrible for you. So it's a little frightening. And there's a company called there's a institute, a 501(c)(3) called Spring Institute, and they do a lot of research on this. And I'll send you guys a follow-up email of everybody who was on here. And I'll send the list of the blood tests. So you can have that for your doctor in case you want to go heavy duty and get all the testing. And I'll send you that information on Spring Institute because it's really, really interesting. I just sat through a whole Zoom on that. Um,
Can I
there's
ask
also
a quick
a
question
yeah.
about tinfoil? Sarah, you talked about you got all the plastic. Do you ever use tinfoil?
I really don't use tinfoil. And I also forgot to say that I did it with I'm trying to do it with my beauty products. I just started using these bar shampoos that come in a box and conditioners. And the problem is they're not doing anything wonderful for my hair.
there is
And
that's another resource I'll send to you. It's ewg.org. And they rate personal care products and environment.
Okay.
So you can go on there and take a look at what they say is clean.
So remember the list I sent you, the plastics list?
Yeah.
Um, I'm trying to remember where I may have gotten that from Mama. There's a website called Mamavation. But
Mhm.
just so you ladies know, I don't think any of us are of childbearing age, but all of us are of, grandparent age or close to grandparent age. And the number one and number two products that are on grocery store shelves that for nanograms of plastic per ounce or per gram are infant formula and baby food.
I remember you told me that. It's horrific.
Horrific.
Yeah.
And phthalates are in most olive oils that you buy at the grocery store.
What about the ones from Europe? I should look into that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how well that stuff is tested. I mean, at least there are people out there who are starting to test our stuff.
Yeah.
I am being very conscious of everyone's time. and it's past our hour. So I want to thank everyone for coming. I really appreciate this. And I hope you've learned a lot from this. You know, even if you didn't read the book, I think it's a great Bible to have for health on your bedside table, and you can reference it through all the the outlines in the back. We will do another one of these. I kind of want to shift gears and focus on mental wellness, and I am a big podcaster, and I love Mel Robbins. And I don't know if anyone knows Mel Robbins.
Yes.
She's just written a book
Yes.
called Let Them. And it's apparently amazing book. I'd like to focus on that one for maybe end of February. And hopefully you'll join me then. I'll send you the link for that. And if there's any other questions real quick, I'll stay on a little bit longer. But thank you for coming. I really appreciate it.
Emily, thank you. It was
Thank
great.
you for sharing with me.
It was
I
great.
really appreciate it.
Well,
Thanks, Emily.
Thanks, Emily.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
And
Bye.
another thing everybody should think about is blood type. Eating according to their blood type.
Yes.
I went to Peter Diadamo years and years and years ago when it was, and he was the one who cleared me up in terms of all the congestion, everything in my head when I was trying to do the voiceovers and I had a semblance of an acting career. And it was because of what I was eating. And as soon as I cleared up what was right for my blood type, then it went away. So it's really important for everybody to consider that as well in how they're eating.
Mm-hmm.
What's your blood type, Julia?
Oh, positive.
Yeah.
So I'm the hugga hugga, the cave woman.
You can eat.
Like, I'm supposed to eat meat. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's something everybody should be aware of. It helps with all of this.
Yeah. Julia, thank you. And thank you everyone for coming. I really, really appreciate it. I mean, we could all stay on here all night long and talk about health, but
thank you, Emily.
Thanks, Em.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you, Emily.
Wonderful, Emily. Thank you.
Emily, you're the best.
oh, you're the best. Thank you for
Thank you.
coming, everyone. I really appreciate
Bye.
it. Donna, thank you for co-hosting.
Well, I just
Thank
like
you. You did a great job.
Nice meeting you, Donna.
Nice meeting you.
Bye.